What then is the soul of a culture? But in some way, the soul of a civilization will be the totality of the souls of its children. The sum of all those who throughout its whole span have achieved consciousness. It will be all the human consciousness achieved within that culture. Its traces may perhaps appear to us in those highest scriptures which describe the pattern of the universe and the way to consciousness of it. These may reveal different souls, as the New Testament is different from the Quran, and both from the Vedas. But at bottom, the soul of a civilization can be made of no other material than the souls of men, and that with which the souls of men connect.
Now, the soul of a civilization is fed in three ways, those three traditional ways by which men may become conscious and develop individual souls of their own. These ways, and the schools of regeneration which exist to administer them and teach their methods on earth, depend upon the idea of developing consciousness first in one particular function. By becoming fully conscious in one function, a man finds his way to consciousness of his whole being. By transforming the nature of this one function, he transforms his whole self. By acquiring an instrument to control one function, he acquires a soul.
The first way to consciousness is through the instinctive and motor functions. The second way is through the emotional function. The third is through the intellectual function. The first way is something akin to what in the West is known as asceticism, though it contains very much more than this word has come to mean, and we use it only for lack of a better. This is the way of achieving consciousness by mastering physical functions by overcoming pain. It is the way of transmuting pain into will. In the East, it includes many fakir practices, and in its full form is known as Hatha Yoga. But whereas the more passive Oriental may follow this way by holding his arm above his head, or by sitting on the top of a column for 7 years, like St. Simeon. In the more active West, the mastery of the body usually takes a quite different form. In modern life, the best examples of men going by the ascetic way are certain explorers or mountain climbers, men who in attempting to reach the poles or scale Himalayan peaks endure appalling hardships and force their bodies beyond the limits of endurance under compulsion which they can never fully explain. Scott and his companions slowly freezing to death at the South Pole, Irving and Mallory climbing on alone toward the summit of Mount Everest, which they could never reach and from which they could never return, were in fact Western fakirs, engaged in making themselves souls by the first or ascetic way.
In this way, neither the question of motive nor of understanding enters. The fakir may be earning the only living open to him. The self-torturing anchorite may be trying to forget a girl. The superlative athlete or acrobat may be hungry for publicity. It does not matter. Driving the body consistently past pain in the fear of death is a fact irrespective of motive. He who does so may create a soul. His soul is made by bravery.
I have to overcome that safety mechanism that wants to rise up in me and to keep me from doing something that could kill me.
So this fear of the unknown becomes like something you absolutely have to confront, because there is no way to turn back your decision.
And each one of those guys, they'll put themselves on the line for guys that they don't even know, or guys they might not even like. But it's part of their personality. It's part of their nature. So when they go home at night, they sleep well, because they don't think, well, I should have, I could have, why didn't I? They do it.
The second way depends on a marriage of what are known in the West as mysticism and charity. Though both words are unsatisfactory. It is the way of achieving consciousness by mastering the emotional function, by overcoming fear. It is the way of transmuting fear into love. By this way, a man welcomes all situations which ordinarily give rise to fear or distaste. Precisely to show that these emotions can be transformed into something quite different. That is, into quite new sensations of ecstasy. He welcomes poverty, celibacy, sickness, absolute obedience to the will of a religious superior, and many other limitations of ordinary pleasure. He sacrifices all small and trivial emotions in order to acquire one great and transcendental emotion. St. Francis of Assisi is perhaps the best Western example of a man going by this way. and his embracing of the leper is a classic demonstration of the method of acquiring love by overcoming fear. Others, who like Florence Nightingale deliberately overcome their natural repugnance in order to serve the sick, the poor, the old, or the oppressed, may also be unwitting candidates for this, the second or emotional way to consciousness.
Here, it is clear, motive is of prime importance, though understanding is not. A man who is charitable in order to be well thought of will acquire nothing, though his every natural inclination be sacrificed in the process. For by this way, it is the emotion, not the fact, which turns the key. Without positive emotion, every visible effort will be but a pretense, hindering rather than helping inner growth. With love, the result may be obtained without a man even realizing the difficulty of what he does. His soul is made by goodness.
Why? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store in barns. Yet our Heavenly Father feeds them. Is there any man among you who by anxious thought can add a minute to his life or a foot to his height? Why the concern for your rich vegetables? Consider how the lilies grow in the fields. They do not work nor spin. Yet even Solomon in all his splendor was not attired like one of these. How little faith you have. You ask, what are we to eat? What are we to drink? What are we to wear?
The third way is what used to be understood by philosophy. It is the way of achieving consciousness by mastering the intellectual function, by overcoming thought. It is the way of transmuting thought into understanding. By this way, a man endeavors to subject the meaningless wanderings of the mind to the pattern of cosmic laws.